Let's look at a set that I really want to look at that I haven't seen, or that I haven't seen in a long time. Is Glutonny versus Space. So of course we all know Space. That I'm waiting out Arsene. Yeah, waiting out Arsene as well. Of course he didn't wait out Arsene a single time in that entire set. But I feel like if he at least resetted the momentum, he would have had better composure for the next set as well, because it was clear that his composure was the thing that was lacking. So let's get into this matchup. So I feel like these two players couldn't be further apart. Glutonny as a player is very reliant on picking his opponents apart and going for personal, like, player-to-player interactions. His strategy is, of course, top-notch. I mean, he's top 10 in the world, right? Space, on the other hand, his base is definitely very flowcharty, picking the optimal choices, and basically forcing the opponent to play around a very strong game plan. And because his game plan is so strong, there are very limited ways to play around it. And when he sees his opponent go for those limited options, he already knows how to deal with it. I have to say, this stream setup is sick. Like, this is the arcade cabinet kind of look with the logo as well. Just extremely well put together. So yeah, the main defining factor of this set, and I'm not going to watch the entire set, I'm actually going to watch a few games of this set, and then a few games of the set that they played in losers. And Space won this set, and Glutonny won the set in losers. And I really want to see what changed. You know, what changed between these two sets that allowed Glutonny to win. And I think I know the answer, but we're about to find out. Let me just check real quick what the score is at the end of the set. I think it was game 5, yeah. So let's watch game 1 and game 5 to kind of see what the evolution was within this set. Having the Smash Discord freak out when Space was on was amazing. Yeah, dude, I was so hyped for my boy. He did so well. Right, so a lot of this is already Glutonny closing the gap. So we can already see the range that Glutonny wants to play on. And he has more control over the range because of the speed of his character. Look at this. He's jumping from a vertical positioning onto space. And that is a really good option versus Inkling. If you can play a vertical game versus Inkling, always do so. And the characters that do play a good vertical game almost always beat Inkling. I think like one of the few that doesn't is like Corrin, because Corrin is so bad. But a character like Shulk that can play that kind of game wins. A character like Wario that can play that kind of game wins. And a lot more characters do that. Inkling's main draw is the strong horizontal game. So arguably like the best backer in the game. A dash that goes under moves, at least horizontally, right? And a grab that just leads into so much reward out of that dash. Amazing tools to beat a lot of horizontal spacing options. But when you do drop in from above, there's not a lot that Inkling can do about that. Their up air is okay, but it's not like a strong anti-air. So the way that Space deals with this, which shows immediately, is he makes it horizontal. So we've spent so much time talking about vertical conditioning and vertical spacing. This is a good answer to vertical spacing. Look at that. By retreating past the jump, he's making it horizontal. At this point, it's a horizontal game. And that's why the backer commits. So once again, Glutonny trying to go over, and by retreating, Space ensures that it's a horizontal play. And this is actually like, I can slow this down. Let me slow this down real quick. I'm sorry for the Dutch interface. You just have to deal with it. I never considered the Inkling matchup like this. I guess neutral jumping more helps. It does. It does. Working from platforms helps as well. Inklings are really bad at pressuring platforms. So look at this. So vertical jump, horizontal adjustment. Vertical jump, shields, realizing he cannot adjust, takes vertical control, and gets a trade, but still a trade in his favor. Vertical control, well, I would say this is not quite vertical control because Wario has the opportunity to intercept from a jumping position way more easily. I also Noro, thanks for the raid with 4 viewers, man. That's my first raid, dude. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. That's good. That's good to see. So in this kind of scenario, it's more of like a corner read, right? I would say vertical control is all about starting to jump from an unreactable. Slow down footage really helps. It's just a sloppy YouTube thing. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So vertical control starts from a position in which you can do an unreactable full hop, which is basically any time in neutral when you full hop. So by the time they've reacted, you're already starting your descent. Meanwhile, in this kind of scenario, because space was put in this situation, I wouldn't call this vertical control. This is damage control from space. He's trying to land without getting hit, but Glutonny just kind of intercepting here immediately. So a lot of fight over like the vertical control here. And eventually space making it back to center stage with that roller. So again, a vertical approach by Wario. And the cornering. Just so Glutonny's bike usage is on a whole nother level. Extremely strong. So look, I can highlight it a few times further, but I'm sure you can see it yourself. Look at the way Glutonny moves here. This is a vertical approach. Nothing that space can do about it. Dash away is going to limit the potency, but it won't really mitigate how strong of a tool it is. Of course, horizontal spacing is in Inkling's favor, but it's not always going to lead into a win, as you can see with Glutonny's interception right here. Right here. So Glutonny does get the neutral win here, but for their very limited in its reward. Limited potency. So when Glutonny jumps in vertically, space can limit how strong that is by dashing away. But thanks for the follow, Rye21GU. Appreciate the support. Hope you enjoy the stream. So by dashing away, he ensures that Glutonny does not get too much reward out of it. But he also limits the amount of punishes that he himself can get. So you kind of change the way that interaction works from a direct rock, paper, scissors with a direct outcome into a more indirect situation. And who wins that interaction? I don't know enough about the matchup to say for sure. But I feel like you give Wario a lot of stage control by dashing away every time he goes for a vertical approach. On the other hand, if you do react on time, or if you even get like a small read and jump beforehand, you can intercept the full hop and get a hit in that way. So I feel like for space, it means that the normal answer by dashing back is losing stage control, and the best case answer is getting a hit in. That said, if he does overcommit on the anti-approach, Glutonny can, like we mentioned before, utilize the neutral air dodge to get back to the ground and get a whiff punish on the anti-air. So this is very low reward. Space doesn't care about getting poked out. There's a very weird backer right there, but does get the reversal. And once again, interception in the air. Glutonny controlling the vertical space here, and by controlling this like pillar between the corner and center stage, he's making sure that space just has to stay in the corner. Once again, the roller is the mix-ups. And now we're in that platform scenario. Space in the corner, using that roller, trying to get a big hit, instead putting himself into the corner. Glutonny trying to... See, and this is what we were talking about. And this is exactly what we didn't see a lot of in the last game. We were talking about when you should capitalize on defensive options, right? And like I mentioned, when your opponent feels pressured, they're more likely to use a defensive option to mitigate a bad situation. They're more likely to either do that, or when they're cornered, they're more likely to bite. You know, like cornered. I don't even know how you would say that in English, but cornered people are more likely to fight their way out of the situation. So stuff like dash attack, stuff like that. So you have to keep in mind that, one, dash attack and stuff is more likely, dash attack, rising aerials, burst range options, in other words. And two, defensive options are more likely as well. And how do you beat both of those? By waiting. So what Glutonny should have done here is drop through and just wait. Instead, he goes for direct pressure and loses the corner pressure for it, is cornered himself, and all of that for a relatively low risk option that Space took, which is jumping over. Now he's in the corner, right? And Space failing the double jump read. He's going for a lot of jump reads, but in this scenario, not working out. And I feel like both of these players at this point could spend more time waiting for each other. And I feel like both of their playstyles have a flaw with their waiting, because Glutonny likes to constantly move around to really force you to make mistakes. He's good at it and it works out well, but it also means that he loses some opportunities. Space, on the other hand, because his flowchart is so strong, it really constricts his opponent's movements and it limits their movements. And if he adapts to them, he gets really good hits off of it. But in advantage state and even in neutral sometimes, choosing to wait, which I actually posted a tip about on my Twitter just a little bit ago. Choosing to wait is a very strong option to consistently beat players that like to pick controlling options. So when you play versus Inkling and they go for like a lot of walling aerials, it's good to wait, because yeah, you might not get to punish, but you do create a good situation because they're limiting their own options. They're taking a lot of, there's an opportunity cost to them going for the short hop, for them going to the landing back air, and while it may not be a lot of an advantage, it is an advantage still. And if you wait it out and then go for the mix-up afterwards, you have that much more extra chance to win neutral. The same goes for Glutonny. When he's constantly jumping around and stuff, he might limit his movements in ways that mean that he won't be able to punish stuff that is normally punishable when waiting. So, from what I've seen so far, which is only like 50 seconds, let's be real, both of these players could benefit a lot from waiting just a little bit more. Just mix in that wait every so often. Waiting is bad if it's like your go-to option, but breaking the flow of the match by waiting is a very, very strong option. Oh, that is the wackiest punish. Doesn't get the sweet spot. Into the ledge trap. See, and this is where Space is very strong. Like, Inkling ledge traps are very flowcharty. Don't you feel Wario in general benefits more from waiting due to oft? Depends on the matchup. I feel like in some matchups Wario is better off creating pressure, because if you do focus on waiting for waft, you are giving up a lot of opportunities and a lot of situations that you could have gotten more mileage out of. And I feel like that is why a Wario like Glutonny is better than all the other Warios. Yeah, waiting is not the same as camping, exactly. Waiting is not the same as camping. But in some matchups, Wario should camp a lot and wait a lot. But those are very far and few in between. I feel like a few of them are like Shulk when he's in certain Monados, Lucario because of Aura, Terry perhaps to get rid of the smash, other Warios perhaps, I don't know. So I don't play enough Wario to like list them all, but there's definitely some that camping is the optimal choice. Say another vertical approach right there. I like this. This is exactly what we're talking about. I like this kind of stuff because seeing other players do it as well kind of proves how effective it is, right? So he's in the corner, and normally there would be no way to retreat here. And we saw how well Tweak, for example, did with Squirtle when he did a retreating short hop and then weaved forward and did a landing forwarder. And look at what Glutonny does here. I feel like that's a little bit laggy. It's even a little bit laggy for me, don't worry guys. Look at that, the retreating jump into the forward drift. Space actually had the answer ready, a little bit off in the execution, but a very good way to weave around hitboxes with that left and right drift. Glutonny really failing on these down airs. More full hops trying to get over the opponent. Another roll for center stage. Immediately Space recognizes, oh, that's a bad situation. Glutonny getting pressure. There you go. So a lot of the Inkling game plan is very vertical, and Wario is very strong at playing vertically. So I feel like this matchup is pretty hard for Inkling. The reason Space is winning is that he's not getting hit in disadvantage as much as he'd like, and Glutonny is giving up a lot of disadvantage trying to get those run of down air, stuff like that. And that is helping Space a lot because his advantage is going pretty decently. I wouldn't say optimally, but pretty decently still. So yeah, good reward right there. And look at that combo, so good. So consistent. And then controlling that space, and that is something that you need to do if you have a disjoint. In this type of situation, okay, so there's two things that Glutonny can do. He can land on stage, or he can retreat to the ledge. Which is better for Glutonny? Well, for Glutonny, he would really prefer to land on the stage, right? Because if he's on the ledge, he only has, you know, like 5 options total. So he wants to be on the stage. So if you look at risk reward, I would say landing on stage, medium risk, medium reward. Going to the ledge, no risk, low reward. So for Space to play this situation optimally, he wants to dismantle his opponent's strongest option. So in this scenario, he goes for a disjoint hitbox to cover this part of the stage and gets the hit, and that is just Glutonny being too greedy right there. And the reason why he's greedy is because Inkling's advantage state is so good when the opponent's on the ledge. So he tried to avoid the advantage state on the ledge, and because he did, he got pushed into that exact scenario and took more damage. So that's one of those things that a lot of he's greedy because he's Wario. True, but that's a lot of things that a lot of like mid-level players do without realizing. They get hit into a juggle, and then they try to like double jump back to center stage, or they try to jump back to the stage without going to the ledge. And that's a risky option. You want to generally use the option that is least likely to get you punished if you want to win consistently. You only go for options like this, like what Glutonny is doing, when you have a read on your opponents. And since this is game 1 and they've hardly played before this, I mean, they had like one set more than half a year before this set. They hardly played. So for as far as I know, I might be wrong. I don't know if they played outside of this. So yeah, I feel like that is a little bit of a premature decision. So in the corner, fights his way out actually, but still gets pressured. It's one of Wario's weaknesses is he has very little frame advantage on his aerials on lower percents. So even if you do get the hit, you can still get mixed up. And that is Space just making great use of that. And here we see the way Space fights out of the corner. So this is very different, right? So he short up here, sets up a wall. Sets up a wall that is entirely predictable, but extremely hard to deal with. Space ledge up is very strong, so I get the idea. Yeah, I want to avoid it as well, but I mean, I'm Shulk. I just go into jump mode and I jump back to center stage. I can do that. But a character, like in that situation, no one should. Like honestly, no one should. Because there's no reason for Space not to cover that part of the space. So yeah, there's no reason to go for that. So here we see Space go for a short up back air, mixing it up with a full hop back air. So, and then doing a full up forward air. Just using a lot of like walling to get out of the corner rather than fighting for positioning like we saw Tweak and Leo do. Or even Glutonny with his rolls. See, and this is a lot of horizontal play and oof, good read on the roll. You don't roll versus Glutonny. Glutonny always looks for the roll. And this is where the weight comes in. Excuse me. He waits. So he knew the opponent would feel pressured because Space whiffed a get-up attack. A get-up attack. That's a big whiff. So Space is like, oh fuck, I whiffed a get-up attack. He's gonna forward smash me. I gotta get out of here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So you don't roll versus Glutonny. He's really good at waiting for those. When you're in the corner at least. I think I'm like the only person who rolled versus Glutonny and got out alive in the world. It's a lot of horizontal play that Glutonny actually won. So at this point, I feel like Glutonny should play more of that horizontal gameplay. But there we see the disadvantage on hit at those lower percents. Bad move choice by Glutonny. And that is the disadvantage we were talking about He can play the horizontal game, but if his aerials aren't safe on hit, it won't accomplish much. Space just closing it out. Very, very well done. So let's look at the final game as well, which is also a win by Space. Let's see where it starts. Should be here. Uh-oh, Stinky. Cue the dancing coffin, man. Exactly. So after this, we'll go into losers and to try to understand how Glutonny improved his game plan as opposed to this set. And then we're going to call it a night. Yep, chasing down the landing, playing the horizontal spacing game. Using full hop back airs to intercept full hops as well. So limiting the vertical play that Glutonny can do. It's a combination between like a walling option and an aggressive option. Somewhat of an in-between, I would say. And this is why this matchup can be rough. Look at this. Glutonny gets one hit, pushes his advantage state. Look at that. It's all reversal, combo, advantage state, advantage state. Now getting the roll, advantage state. As I mentioned, even if you miss the roll, you still get pressure. And that's why hard covering the roll is not the best way to go about it, because you sacrifice a lot of pressure you get on other options by covering the roll, while not covering the roll still lets you pressure that option regardless. Do you feel camping is effective in the Inkling matchup when you're covered in ink? Yes, you should camp when you're covered in ink. You should wait that out because it severely improves Inkling's risk reward. The cheering squad. So, chasing down the retreat all the way. Look at that, back air. Gets the retreat. And that's because Glutonny's in the corner, man. That's just the disadvantage of being in the corner. Going for the aggressive landing, but uses the platform to minimize the risks. So in this situation, it is good to go back to the stage because it is a low risk option because of the platform with high reward. Look at that. All because he went for the risky option of going back to the stage. Platforms really changed the dynamic of the game. And a nice read on the landing. That's that air dodge to the ground to beat those anti-airs. Getting countered. Needs to hard commit to it, but because of Inkling's hard commit being so strong, it works out for Space. Nice anti-air. So Glutonny not going for vertical approaches at all in this game so far. Very interesting to see. There's another attempt to use the platform to return to the stage. Love the cheering right here. So yeah, this horizontal play is just 100% in favor of Space. It feels so comfortable that he goes for a roller as well. But that does not end up well for him, of course. Roller is a very important move versus Wario because it's one of the few ways that Inkling can call out his movement. But you don't want to use it too often. And in that regard, Glutonny does have a lot of the cards in hand in terms of like the movement and the mix-ups with the movement. So much vertical play, and in the end, the anti-air is coming through. A little bit off on the jump right there, but it's hard to judge because, you know, Wario can mix up his landings so frequently. Tried and trusty, I love that. So one more stock. Space intercepting, and that's, you know, Space is focusing a lot on calling out the movement. With these rising aerials, look at that. The rising aerials here, intercept, another intercept attempt right there. Loses to the neutral air dodge, but definitely noticeable change in Space's gameplay. I feel like it's very key to beating Glutonny is calling out his movement, and rather than let him constrict you, constrict him. And Space, very good at that. Look at that. Very, very, very good reaction. He's looking for the grab, yeah. Space dash dances like that, he's always looking for the grab. Always. Like, just go to a platform and let it go. Reversal right there because of those unsafe aerial at lower percents. Unsafe aerial still. This is where Space needs to make the most of the stock. Really get that lead going because this is the moment. Look at that. The reversal out of the hit. Glutonny feels like he needs to use these moves to contest horizontally and gets punished for even using them. And that's huge. Look at that. Another punish on hit. Thanks for the follow, Just Tracy. Appreciate the support. Hope you enjoyed the stream, man. So I feel like Glutonny sacrificing his vertical gameplay here was the key to him losing. Because the horizontal play at low percents, not worth it. At these percents, he should go for horizontal play. So right now, I feel like this is definitely favored for Glutonny. And we've seen that because he's winning interactions left and right? Was not an intended wordplay. So look at that. Horizontal interaction win. Horizontal interaction win. A lot of wins here are on the horizontal play. I feel like on lower percents, vertical, at higher percents, horizontal. And that would be very hard for Inkling to deal with in this particular matchup. So up for up air, does not connect, but gets that gets the roller. Well played from both sides, honestly, but at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of inexperience on Glutonny's side. We saw him change. Just want to hop by. Thank you for the work you're putting into the community. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's good to hear that. I'm doing my best, man. I hope you learned a thing or two about a thing or two. Appreciate the follow, man. So let's get into this set and analyze a few of the games. Try to see how things changed in terms of strategy for Glutonny, and compare it to the first set. And after that, we're going to call it a day. Glutonny definitely making strange adjustments in the first set. But he's really good at adjusting between sets. So in this scenario, Glutonny cannot play vertical at all because of the middle platform. But still gets a good few wins here. So advantage. That's something we talked about last set as well, right? Glutonny's advantage was not looking too on point. Good weight. That was that weight coming in that we were talking about. Glutonny going for it. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I feel like the platform changes the dynamics of this matchup a lot. Very strong influence. And Glutonny just playing the horizontal game, but because his reward is so much higher, it's working out for him. He got through the early percents with a single combo, with a single advantage state, and that's just curtains. That's a roller though, and that is like, let's talk about that for a second. So Space doesn't really like using roller, but in this matchup he does, and I've talked to him a little bit about it, and it's very smart because like I mentioned before, roller is the only way Inkling can call out Wario's movement. So if Wario's playing very retreating, the roller will catch those retreating drifts on the landing and get that hard punish. Can you elaborate more on the platform making a difference in the matchup? Yeah, so the platform is basically an anti-approach tool for whoever's standing under it. So you cannot approach Inkling vertically when... Yeah, exactly what Warpstar said. It changes the verticality of Glutonny's strategy. You cannot approach Inkling vertically when she's standing under the platform. And on the other hand, Space can more easily call out full hops, doing full hop back airs and landing on the platform as well. So look at this roller. Calling out the empty whatever Glutonny wants to do. If Glutonny did an advancing aerial here while retreating back, he would have still gotten caught by the roller. So this is a read on the timing of Glutonny's jump and a soft read on the spacing, though I don't, because of the speed of the roller and the size of the hitbox, it actually covered a lot of different spacings, so I wouldn't even say it's much of a read on the spacing. It's mostly knowing, okay, Glutonny, when I'm in the corner, Glutonny likes to go for these walling aerials, for this reactionary playstyle. I'm going to call out the empty movement. And I feel like the roller usage of Space in the previous set and this set as well is vital to his victory. Glutonny could have counterplayed that by either landing on the platform double jumping, going for a bike, using bite even. But that would be like like the bite, especially bike as well, would be like hard callouts. And I feel like this shows the difference between a player like Tweak, who's in my opinion better than Glutonny, and a player like Glutonny in the platform usage, right? Tweak always goes for an option after which he can react, like a dash back, going to the platform, and then, or even just full hopping, and then observing the moment and reacting again based on that. So he's opening himself up to react to the opponent, and then even if nothing happens, he even reacts to that. So in this scenario, Glutonny is kind of going for a short hop, didn't react to the fact that Space didn't really commit, and instead of minimizing his losses by making sure he can avoid the roller going to the platform, he still landed and got hit by it. So at the end of the day, it's a little bit of experience as well, because if he was more aware of the roller, he probably would have avoided it. But it's also partially playstyle and good decision making. So yeah, bad reaction by Space, gets reversaled for it. Executionary error right there. Oh, so he gets 2 hits of the Nair now into the platform. And now the neutral is a lot different for Space, right? Back air. Yep, good confirm. Look at that. Look at the way Space is moving. So he knows the horizontal playstyle is coming out. So he's going for a horizontal retreat. Goes straight down. Doesn't weave back forward because he knows Glutonny can occupy that space due to the high variation of landing positions that Glutonny has. So Glutonny can land in so many different positions. And as such, it's bad to drift back in. Because you don't know exactly what your spacing is going to be. You cannot react to Glutonny's position, and you cannot react to his drift. Whereas with most characters, you can estimate where they're going to land and adjust your spacing to either hit with the tip of your move or whiff to prevent parry punishes. Versus Wario, that's not possible. So very good spacing by Space. This one as well, knowing that, considering Wario's speed, he wouldn't be able to break into this zone on time. But at the end of the day, just a little bit off on the drift. Another executionary mistake, I would say. And that's the bite beating the roller. That's exactly what I was talking about. A little bit of a hard read right there. Nice pressure. And that's an advantage state coming in big, right? So I actually don't think a lot has changed about the neutral compared to game 5 of the previous set that we saw. But Glutonny's advantage state is working so much better right now. Partially because of bad judgment by Space, and partially because of execution errors. But it doesn't matter as long as it's working, right? Waft is on deck as well. So Space looking for the up throw up air. I told you guys about this. The dash dance means he's looking for something big, and there it is. The whiff punish. Very well done. I mean, this is why Glutonny doesn't want to play horizontally if Space does play the horizontal game optimally, because Space wins in the horizontal game. The difference is that when Glutonny wins the horizontal game, he gets way more reward out of it, while if Space wins the horizontal game, it's a little bit less rewarding. But in that scenario, I mean, of course, when the reward is a KO, it's going to be in favor of Space. So, pretty interesting. Actually, a little bit disappointed at how little has changed between the game 5 we saw and this set. So let's actually watch the entire set. So again, horizontal gameplay, Space focusing on his dashes a lot more. I like that. We saw him get wins out of that, but gets called out on that by the Nair. And I honestly don't know why Space continued to dash forward here. I feel like that's a bad choice. A very aggressive choice, if I might add. Especially since the ideal range for Space to be in this matchup is the mid-range. The close range, pardon me, the close range is optimal for Glutonny. Both of these characters don't really care about the long range. I would say it's probably Wario favored because he gets to charge his waft. But the mid range is definitely favored for Inkling, and the close range is definitely favored for Wario. It's a very, very clear distinction between which character is strongest. So Space dashing forward, probably as a way to call out Glutonny's retreat, a very aggressive choice right there. Probably based on a read, but I would say it's not the correct way to go about this matchup, because look at the reward. So the reward, if Space succeeded, would have been stage control, possibly a juggling hit, probably maybe a jab. Like if he calls out a landing, maybe a jab, but not 50% worth of damage. And we've seen the change in neutral interactions when Space racks up enough damage to get beaten by Wario's pokes. Because Wario's pokes, we saw, they're not plus and hit on lower percents. Well, I mean, now that we're in mid percents, they're a lot better. And you're basically giving Wario access to better tools by getting hits. And I mean, of course, getting hit is not a choice. But playing these lower percents, knowing that Wario's poking is bad, I think is the most optimal way to approach the matchup, at least in that type of game state. So now Wario has good pokes. Look at that. That was a forward air poke. Normally forward air sucks, but it went into attack chase, into dash attack, into advantage state. Of course, a little bit of a reversal here, but that was, that's a stroke of luck at best. Back air, yeah, could confirm. So a lot of poking from Glutonny. The forward air is coming in big here. Look at that, just controlling the air. I'm going to commentary mode. But yeah, it's very apparent that the change in percentages has changed the dynamic of the matchup to an extreme degree. And look at that. Pluto nair dodging a lot. That too, yeah, he's faking out his disadvantage options a lot. And like we saw before, you have to hard commit to beat the nair dodge. And we've seen Space succeed before with the roller, but yeah, I would say it's not something you will see often, right? That's a lower percent nair, not going to connect, not going to lead into much. So these lower percents are very critical moments in the game, and if you don't get the lead at the lower percents, I would argue you probably lose that. You're probably going to lose the stock, or you're going to have to pull out something big to get the comeback going. Very interesting. You don't see a lot of characters where your percent is a very big factor in how effective your moves are. But Glutonny's, like Wario's neutral, is affected a lot by their opponent's percent because of how minus on hit his burst range aerials are. And just Glutonny just murdering Space in disadvantage too. And there's nair dodge, overcommit. See Glutonny use that so frequently. Tweak as well. And both of them play characters with really good air games, so definitely something to take away if you play a character with good air game is the utilization of Tweak's platforms and Glutonny's movement and both of their nair dodges, neutral air dodges. I would say Space is not mixing up a lot in terms of movement and move choice as well. A lot of walling back airs, which are definitely hard to punish, but that parry right there just shows how much of a read Glutonny has on what the opponent is doing. Another one of those landing back airs, and he meant to shield there. Of course, an unfortunate SD, but that back air just wasn't the right idea. Space needs to start mixing up a lot of empty landings and focusing a lot more on his movement rather than these short hop approaches, because whenever Space short hops, Glutonny just reacts to the fact that the short hop is happening and he doesn't contest. He reacts to the short hop happening and he doesn't contest. And because he doesn't want to contest, Space doesn't win, because Space does not pressure in the same way that Glutonny does. And when Space starts pressuring with his movement, when he starts being ready to react to his opponent making a mistake rather than trying to make his opponent force to deal with his flowchart, he will get a lot more neutral wins, I feel like. Space's flowchart is good, but a flowchart like Space's kind of depends on his opponent interacting with him. It's a very defensive flowchart. I feel like with Joker, his flowchart is a lot more balanced. What options specifically would you suggest outside of Space's flowchart? So movement, dash dashing, splat bomb when he gets the time to set up neutral. Maybe even splatter shot to put on some sort of pressure. He can. Those are like very safe options to take. And then outside of that, he can go for stuff like empty landings, nair landings, which give better pressure than back air. And I think that's basically it. But I think those mix-up will already help a lot. Maybe even fast falling more, or not fast falling at all. Going for short hop landing splatter shots, perhaps. I'll be ending the stream after an analysis of this final game. So I'm going to rewind because I missed all of that while I was ranting. But yeah, go get your pizza, dude. There will be more streams, don't worry. So look at that punish right there. Okay, so this is something... Okay, I'm going to teach you guys something. If you're in this situation and you're shielding, hold B and SDI inwards fully. Alright, see you around, Ziltoid. Hope to catch you next stream. Appreciate the support, interaction, and love. Have a great evening. So if you're in this situation, hold B and then start SDIing forwards. You're going to get shield SDI, which is going to move you closer to Inkling. And because you hold B, that's going to ensure that nothing is going to go wrong. And then as soon as as you've reached the threshold, of which you get an invincible roll, which I think is 10 hits, you start rolling in. So you release B and you start rolling in. So if you do this, if they release early, you're going to be in shield and close to them, close enough to punish. And if they release late, you're going to roll through them. Yeah, exactly. Holding B will ensure that the roll doesn't come out too early. I've heard this from Isam. Oh, okay, cool. It's important. It's very important versus Inkling because it kills their rapid jab mix-up. Because normally, he pushes you out too far to roll through, or she pushes you out too far to roll through. But when you shoot SDI in, you can still roll through and get behind them. Very, very useful tactic. Shield SDI, very strong, of course. So it's all advantage states so far. All advantage state. And even though space, okay, so I'm calling this advantage state, but even though space is returning to neutral, after he returns to neutral, he immediately gets pressured by Glutonny. So the way Glutonny structures his offense is he gets a hit, and if the hit goes wrong, he still gets pressure. So this is pressure, even though even though it's not a direct advantage state, it's still pressure. Look at this. Space feels like he has to control the space. He feels pressured still. So he goes for a burst range option. Here, Space feels the threat of Glutonny approaching, so he goes for a walling move, tries to keep Glutonny out, still gets pressured. So a lot of this is all pressure from Glutonny. All advantage. Very nice layered pressure. Not a lot of overcommitting from Glutonny. A few situations in which you could have taken a little bit more of a safe option, I feel like. But definitely good ideas, good game plan by Glutonny. And this, I would say, was back to neutral for a while, but now that Space retreated all the way off stage, definitely not going to be neutral. Finally gets his break. But look at this. Space is playing so wild. Look at the way Space has been moving this entire stock. Forward, 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 forward. That double jump is forward. Everything is forward. That is the sign of a player that's pressured. Landing there, good mix-up, but, you know. That bike can create such danky interactions. Feels really bad to lose to it. So this is better. Now this is space with a little bit more composure. A little bit of an error on the drift. And getting beaten out in the air-to-air as well. Inkling's nair is a little bit of a tragedy. A little bit of a bigger hitbox and that move would have been broken. Oh, okay, nice. So, in this scenario, it's gonna be very hard for Space to get a good combo starter because of the way that Wario's hitboxes work versus mid to high percent opponents, like we mentioned before. So look at that. Yep, there it is. Very hard for Inkling to get a good combo starter here. I think that was a misinput. Really don't know what was happening right there, but excellent punish, of course. You have to keep in mind it was losers finals. Space has played versus Glutonny game 5 versus Kameme, got the win, and had to play so many good players, man. And you know, a little bit of tiredness is obviously going to come into play as well, and you have to, you know, forgive yourself for that when you're doing VOD review. Getting the grab, that's ideal for Wario at lower percents because of the way his aerials work. That grab is going to be safe on hit and into just like Glutonny's insane advantage state, and the SD is going to end it all. But very, very strong adaptations by Glutonny. Very logical thought process, starting off with the vertical spacing. Saw that his opponent... Yeah, it's getting dark. I'm sorry. My lighting isn't the greatest, and I forgot to turn on my room lights, but I'm going to end the stream soon anyway. So... saw that the vertical spacing wasn't working out because of the control that Inkling has over horizontal spacing on the ground. He can turn any vertical situation into a horizontal situation, which just a great tool to have. But yeah, just a very logical adaptation. I think the main thing there, though, was the advantage state. Very well done by Glutonny to really up his game right there, getting so much out of every hit. Whew. We've seen a lot of games, guys. Or, well, I mean...